Right now, somewhere in the world, a grown adult is standing in front of a zoo enclosure. They're looking at a lion cub, a seal pup, a raccoon, or a bear cub whose mother is probably somewhere nearby. And quietly, very quietly, they are fighting the urge to press a hand against the glass and imagine touching it. Not a kitten, not a puppy, a lion, an animal that will eventually grow teeth the size of your fingers, claws built for ripping, and a body designed to take down things much larger than you. And yet, because it is small, because its face is round and its paws are too big, and it keeps stumbling like it has no idea what gravity is, something fires in the human brain. A very clear, very confident message. I want to pet that. That is the strange part. Cuteness doesn't just make us stop and look. It makes us reach. And sometimes, that reach is aimed at something we absolutely should not be touching. So why does something cute feel like something we are supposed to touch? And why does the brain sometimes confuse adorable with safe? Let's start with something that happened to me. One morning, I was rushing to work when I saw an orange cat lying in a patch of sunlight. It was doing absolutely nothing, just existing in the sun, like it had solved the meaning of life and decided the answer was warmth. And I stopped, not for long, but long enough to notice something strange. I did not decide to touch the cat. My brain had already imagined it. The softness of the fur, the warmth from the sun, that slow, calm feeling of touching a creature with absolutely nowhere to be. My body had already reached, in a sense. The urge was already there. I spend most of my day trusting logic, but one orange cat and a sunbeam can make that whole system glitch. Not because I became irrational, but because cuteness opened a different door. That moment explains a lot of what we are talking about. Cuteness does not just make you feel something. It makes your body want something. The question is, why? And more importantly, why does that same system activate when the animal is not a harmless orange cat, but a wild animal behind glass, a fence, or a warning sign? To understand why your hand wants to move, we have to stop looking at the hand. We have to look at the brain that sent the order, and that brain was not built for zoos. It was not built for pet videos. It was not built for scrolling through tiny animals at 1 a.m. It was built in a living world. For most of human history, the world around us was alive all the time. Birds in the trees, animals crossing paths, insects in the grass, leaves moving, water shifting. Every sound, every movement, every change, it could mean something. A sudden noise could mean danger. A track in the mud could mean food. A change in animal behavior could mean something nearby had changed. And a crying baby meant one thing very clearly. Someone needed help, right now. So the human brain got very, very good at one thing: noticing life. Not just noticing it, reacting to it, fast. And here's the thing about a system that's been tuned for hundreds of thousands of years. It doesn't turn off when the situation changes. We see faces in clouds. We name our cars. We apologize to furniture when we bump into it. Some people feel genuinely bad for a robot vacuum. When it gets stuck in a corner, the robot is not sad. It's just bad at corners. But the brain doesn't care. It sees movement. It sees something that behaves unpredictably, and it assigns a feeling to it. So now imagine what happens when that same brain, the one that generates sympathy for a cleaning robot, sees something small, warm, blinking, and actually alive. That gets us closer. We are built to notice life. But noticing life is not the same thing as wanting to touch it. For that, we need another layer. This is where a useful name enters the story. Biologist E.O. Wilson popularized an idea called biophilia. The idea is simple, but it explains a lot. Humans may have a deep attraction to living things because our minds developed inside a living world, not because nature is fashionable, not because animal videos are good for the algorithm, but because, for most of human existence, life was not background decoration. Life was the environment: plants, animals, rivers, birds, insects, other humans. That was the world our brains learned to read. And honestly, I think you can feel this in everyday life. People stop to watch birds, even when they are in a hurry. They feel strangely guilty when the plant on their desk starts dying. They talk to pets like the pet has been following the whole story. They watch one animal video before bed, and suddenly it is 40 minutes later and they are watching a baby otter eat lettuce like it is a major life event. Living things pull at us, but even that doesn't fully explain cuteness, because we don't want to touch every living thing. Nobody looks at a mosquito and thinks, I should hold that. Nobody watches a deep-sea fish and gets the urge to cuddle it. So what makes certain animals different? What flips the switch from interesting to touchable? And why does that switch become so dangerous when the animal is not a pet, but a predator, a wild baby, or an animal that has never agreed to be part of our emotional moment? This is where the story gets more specific. To understand why some animals flip the switch from interesting to touchable, we need to talk about an old idea from ethologist Konrad Lorenz. Lorenz described something called Kindchenschema, often translated as baby schema. The name sounds technical, but the idea is simple. Certain baby-like features can make adult brains pay attention, soften, and feel protective. Big eyes, a round face, a small nose, a large head compared to the body, soft features, clumsy, unsteady movement. That look of a creature still trying to understand how the floor works. Human babies have many of these traits, and that matters because human babies are unusually helpless. A baby horse can stand soon after birth. Many young animals can move, hide, or follow the group almost immediately. Human babies cannot. They arrive soft, fragile, loud, confused, and completely dependent on other people. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot protect themselves. They cannot even hold up their own heads at first. So the human brain became extremely sensitive to signals that seem to say, this needs care. But here is where the brain gets sloppy. The system does not only respond to human babies, it responds to anything that carries enough of those signals. A kitten is not your baby. A puppy is not your baby. A lion cub is very much not your baby. A bear cub is not asking you to meet its mother. A seal pup on a beach is not inviting you into a friendship. A raccoon with tiny hands is still a raccoon with wild animal boundaries, but they check enough boxes that the brain reacts before logic gets a word in. Small, round, clumsy, helpless. Protect it. That reaction is fast, automatic. You do not decide to find something cute. You experience it. The feeling arrives before the thought, and that is exactly what makes it powerful. Because by the time logic says, wait, this is a wild animal, your emotional system has already whispered, but look at its face. So now we get to the real question. Why does cuteness make us want to touch specifically? You can enjoy a sunset without wanting to hug the sky. You can love a mountain without needing to pet it. You can appreciate a painting without reaching out and stroking the canvas, although the museum security guard would definitely remember you. So why is cuteness different? Part of the answer has to do with how the brain predicts sensation. When you see something fluffy, your mind doesn't just register it visually. It almost feels it before your hand makes contact. You look at a thick-furred dog, and your fingers seem to know the texture already. You see a sleeping cat, and your brain fills in the softness, the warmth, the slow rise and fall of breathing. You see a hamster, a rabbit, a sleepy orange cat in a sunbeam, and your eyes do more than see. They preview the touch. Your brain starts simulating the sensation before contact happens, in a way that feels almost unfair. The animal is still across the room, but your brain has already touched it. And when something is also small and vulnerable looking, there's another system that activates on top of that, the care system. The same ancient wiring that made parents rush toward a crying baby now points toward the small, stumbling animal in front of you. And the care system, historically, expresses itself through contact. Humans are deeply social. Touch is one of the first languages we learn. Before words, we understand being held still, being kept close. A parent holds a baby, a friend puts a hand on your shoulder. You hold someone's hand when you want them to know they're not alone. Touch is how we say, without any words at all, you're safe with me. So when the care system activates, when your brain looks at something small and helpless and goes into protective mode, the body wants to complete the loop, not just look, touch, hold, protect. But here is the problem. The animal may not be asking for protection. It may be asking for distance, and our brain is not always good at telling the difference. And there's one more layer. When you actually do pet an animal, when the animal stays, or leans in, or closes its eyes, the brain makes a very large announcement. It feels like consent. It feels like trust. It feels like the animal has chosen you. Is that scientifically accurate based on that one interaction? Probably not. Does it feel completely true in that moment? Absolutely. There's a small feeling of trust, a small feeling of being needed, a small feeling that another living creature decided your presence was okay. That's powerful stuff. That's why people talk to their pets, why they celebrate their birthdays, why they ask them questions the pet clearly cannot answer. We know they don't speak our language. We do it anyway, because the connection isn't just logical, it's emotional. And the emotional part doesn't wait for permission. This is why petting feels bigger than petting. It is not just texture. It is a tiny social contract. The animal stayed. You touched. For 1 second your brain says, connection accepted. Now. Here's where it gets strange, because sometimes, when something is extremely cute, the response people have sounds almost the opposite of affectionate. I want to squeeze it. I can't handle how cute this is. I want to squish its little face. This is called cute aggression, and most of the time, it has nothing to do with wanting to hurt the animal. It's about overflow. The feeling gets so strong that the brain almost needs somewhere to put it. So it produces this strange little opposite reaction. It sounds aggressive, but it usually is not. It's the emotional equivalent of a pressure valve. The system says, too much, reduce immediately. That's why a kitten falling asleep sitting up can make a grown adult lose all composure. A baby otter floating on its back shouldn't feel like an emotional event, but it does. A tiny puppy attempting to bark with zero authority shouldn't make you want to lie down on the floor. But here we are. Cuteness is not a small emotion. It can be a full-body interruption. It changes your attention, your voice, your posture, and sometimes your judgment. Here's the part that matters though. Because everything we've talked about, the noticing, the attraction, the baby schema, the touch prediction, the care system, all of it is natural. But natural doesn't mean automatically correct. Cuteness changes how we see an animal. It does not change what the animal is. A lion cub is still a wild animal. A bear cub is still protected by a bear. A baby crocodile is still attached to a very real crocodile mouth. A bison calf can look soft and harmless, but the adult standing nearby is not part of your petting zoo fantasy. A seal pup can look lonely on a beach, but human contact can create real problems for the animal. And here is the quiet danger in all of this. The brain does not just add cute to what it is seeing. It also quietly adds another word, safe. But cute and safe are not the same thing. An animal can be adorable and still need distance. It can look calm and still be stressed. It can look curious and actually be afraid. It can stare at you in a way that feels like connection, while it's really just trying to figure out what you are. There is another reason cute animals confuse us. Humans are very good at anthropomorphism. That means we project human feelings, motives, and personalities onto things that are not human. Psychologists Nicholas Epley, Adam Waits, and John Cacioppo describe this tendency in their work on why people see human qualities in non-human agents. And once you notice it, you see it everywhere. A puppy lowers its head, and we say it looks guilty. A cat narrows its eyes, and we say it is judging us. A baby animal stumbles, and we say it looks embarrassed. A lion cub tilts its head, and for one dangerous second, we imagine trust. But animals are not small humans wearing animal costumes. They have their own signals, their own needs, their own boundaries, and those boundaries do not disappear just because the animal looks adorable. That is where the whole illusion becomes dangerous. The animal is not reading the scene the way you are. You may see a magical moment. It may see a giant animal moving too close. You may see affection. It may see pressure. You may see a chance to connect. It may need the one thing humans are often worst at giving cute animals: space. So the impulse to touch, that ancient, automatic, deeply human response, is real. And it's not something to be embarrassed about, but it still needs judgment layered on top of it. Because the best version of this instinct isn't just "I want to touch that." It's also, does this animal actually want to be touched? That's the difference between connection and intrusion, between care and selfishness. So let's bring this all the way back to where we started. Somewhere, right now, a grown adult is watching a lion cub stumble over its own paws. They know it's not a kitten. They know the glass is there for a reason. They know that reaching in would be one of the worst ideas they've ever had. And then the cub blinks, tilts its tiny head, looks genuinely confused by the basic concept of standing, and somewhere in that adult's brain, something very old and very human sends up a message. I want to pet that. And honestly, that impulse is not something to fix. It is something to understand. At its best, it helps parents care for babies, helps people bond with pets, and makes a lonely person feel less alone when a cat quietly decides to sit beside them. At its worst, it makes the brain confuse cute with safe. That is when someone ignores a sign, leans too close to a fence, or looks at a baby predator and thinks, for one terrible second, that nature has offered them a private meet and greet. So the instinct is not the problem. The direction is. So point it in the right direction. Pet the dog that actually wants to be petted. Scratch the cat that asked for it. Hold the animal that trusts you. And admire the animals that need space from a respectful distance. Because the best version of this instinct is not, I want to touch that. It is, what does this creature need from me right now? Sometimes the answer is contact. Sometimes the answer is distance. Both can be care. And if you made it to the end of this video, I'm guessing you're exactly the kind of person who gets that. If this made you think of one animal you want to go check on right now, maybe give this video a like, subscribe if you're new, and go be kind to something small, preferably not a lion.